Welcome to today's ASI Thought Leaders Forum. My name is Kete Shabani, and I'm the head of global communications here at ASI. And for those of you joining us for the very first time, ASI is a global development company specializing in working in some of the toughest contexts around the world. Today, you are part of our ASI Thought Leaders Forum, as I just mentioned earlier. And this series really evolved from years and years of internal lunch and learns with thought leaders in international development. Last year, we expanded it to foster knowledge exchange beyond our own walls. So we are quite excited about this initiative. And I wanted to thank you as well for joining us today and supporting this initiative. And we really hope that the series continues to benefit the broader international community. And that's really why originally we, brought it to life in the first place. So today we have the privilege of hearing from Eduardo Soteras Jalil, whose body of work spans continents. And he might not tell you himself, so I will. Eduardo is an acclaimed photographer. He's award-winning, in fact. And you've likely already come across some of his work on front covers on the who is who of global media landscape in newspapers like the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Financial Times, the Economist, and many, many others. Eduardo and I first met in the DRC, working on a story about coffee smuggling for a major British newspaper. At the time, ASI had a project in the DRC, Elan RDC, which looked at improving the market conditions for Congolese in the DRC. So hopefully they wouldn't have to, engage in more dangerous things like coffee smuggling across Lake Kivu and things like that. Unfortunately, our story was overshadowed by the passing of a known political figure. And so the story never got to be published in that paper. However, what remained were still some of my favorite pictures taken during that trip by Eduardo. So during our time in the DRC and as we traveled across Lake Kivu and the region, and we interviewed countless individuals, I had the pleasure of seeing Eduardo work firsthand. And standing right next to him, I really was amazed at how he could capture such emotional images in seconds. You will see many of them shortly. And images that really revealed more than I certainly could see. And, this is even as I experienced the scene firsthand, even as I stood right next to him. So in a moment, my colleague Paul will put up some pictures of that trip, and I'll also share a link to a photo album. If you wanted to see more from that trip, you can do so in a little bit. And in a moment, I'll also hand the mic to Eduardo. He'll talk to us about the complexities of covering conflicts and capturing what he calls some versions of reality. You'll have the chance to ask questions in the last 30 minutes or so, but definitely feel free to drop them in the chat beforehand if you, want to kind of capture the thought you had, and we'll try to go through as many of them as possible during the Q&A. So without further ado, welcome again to all of you, and join me in welcoming Eduardo and delve into the world of visual storytelling together. Eduardo, over to you.
Thank you very much. My mother wouldn't have said better. Thank you. You may. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for the invitation. I really like talking to people about what I do, and I will try to make this as entertaining as possible. Okay. First of all, I want to I want to start showing you some things, but mainly to start talking about what I do, which is photography, and also what is photography for me. I'm what I do, what I decided this, because this is not the first thing I did in life. I used to be an accountant until I discovered photography. This is, I don't know if it ever happened to you, but I come from a more or less big city in Argentina, but I never saw photography until I was 22 years old, 23, which was already too late, no? I was already an accountant. Look, this is interesting. I was 23. I was backpacking in Europe. Uh, I was with an Argentinian friend. We met around, and somehow I went to this photo exhibition, and for me it was very moving because it was the first time I was finding photography. This is one of the photos I saw, I remember, from Kudelka. And it really changed my life, as you can see, because there was something there I don't know, they lied to me. My family, they're in Argentina, where I come from. People are usually lawyers, doctors, accountants. My family, they're lawyers. We have very much absorb this idea of migrants coming to Argentina and having to do something important in life. So I became an accountant. I saw this photo and it changed a lot of things to me.
Okay.
So for me, this was literally a journey. I came back to being an accountant and I started working again, feeling completely unsatisfied with what I was doing in my life, etc. The only thing I could do in that moment was to leave everything and just start traveling. That's what I did. And because I didn't know what to do, I only knew what I didn't want to do again in my life, which was working in what I was working. Can you pass to the next one? So I started traveling, backpacking in Central America. I met who was going to be my girlfriend for many, many years. She was Israeli. And that's how I ended up in the Middle East. While she was studying cinema, I started to study on my own photography. And I was doing it in Israel, in the north of Israel, in the border with Lebanon. As you heard by my last name, Jalil, I'm a Lebanese descendant. Um, anyway, I was there and I wanted to start. I knew I wanted to take photos and I knew I wanted to deal with reality. That's how I started in photojournalism. Uh, and one of the things I did in this time, these very difficult times of anyone's career, is where you want to start working, making a living, and at the same time doing interesting things. I founded Active Stills, which is a collective of photographers and videographers, but mainly photography in Israel, Palestine. And I also founded an NGO which is called Active Vision. I put both names, not very original as you can hear, because they both have the active thing, which for us in that moment was very important. It's about activism, no? So we wanted to address some social issues that were going on, some political struggles in Israel, and we wanted to do it in a different way. That's how we created Active Stills, which is a collective of photographers. And instead of just doing photos, we got some money to do an exhibition about what we were documenting on the nonviolent struggle in Palestine. And the first thing we did was a street exhibition. Basically, instead of printing expensive photos and putting in one place, we printed thousands of posters and we put it in the streets of Tel Aviv. for people to look at it, even if they didn't want to. And it was very interesting. It had a lot of impact. It was amazing. And in parallel, I started experimenting with participatory photography, which is something I took from the technique of the philosophy of the theater of the oppressed from Augusto Boal. So it was also interesting. It was a way of experimenting, but always, in this search of trying to find a balance and to find a way of creating, and taking creation as a way of existing, This was and still is my main quest, who I am and what I came to do to this life. Can we pass? Kete will share with you the page of active stills. For me, it was a very interesting experience. Again, the problem was that, still today, my colleagues are still doing the same thing, which is basically covering every protest in the territories of Palestine and Israel. And for me, there was a point that it was a bit repetitive. So I wanted to do something else. I moved to Barcelona. I founded the school of photography there, and another collective which was called Ruido Photo. Can we go to the next one? And somehow we managed. Ruido Photo was a non-profit organization, very much inserted in the Catalonian society, and through it we were able to develop different kind of projects. One of them was very interesting. We got a very big project to do in Mexico about the migration of Central Americans through the Mexican territory. And I'm telling you this because in that time, well, this is a commonplace in journalism. We were the first ones. Somehow we were, no? And the interesting thing is we were working in this amazing way of long term and with a lot of resources. I was telling you, there was something very interesting about this. I don't know if you can start passing the presentation. We managed somehow, and for me, this was a very important part in my career, to work on complete freedom, long term, quite an important team of people, documenting something that was not covered by any media. And we did it through a very small publication. It's an online newspaper from El Salvador that is called elfaro.net. And you can start passing. So basically, we follow the road or the trip that Central Americans migrants do through Mexico with any kind of protection. We were even, probably you heard about this, the Beast, this train that the migrants work in different stages and that so many people lose their lives. We were able to take that train several times. So basically, we cover the whole route from south to north of Mexico. And this was interesting because, again, we were not doing it for the New York Times. We were doing it for this Salvadorian newspaper. And we managed to work in a way, we did it through a grant of the Open Society, but also from the Ford Foundation. And we managed to make a textbook, a photo book, and also a documentary movie. So it was quite an important achievement that, again, put in crisis many of the things in my life in that moment, because it was really wonderful. But somehow, after 6 months working in Mexico, we took 6 months shifts among 3 photographers. I came back to my life in Barcelona, my school. The school was part of this project also, because it was all together. But, I found myself again doing things like photography, but not doing photography specifically. and there was no way back, no. I understood that I was being more a school director than a photographer. So life is interesting in these points, no, because somehow I took the very difficult decision to leave everything behind, and exactly in that point, when I left the school, I left Barcelona, I came back to live in Israel. I was lucky because somehow I got a very big assignment to work in Switzerland. But it's not only, I did it through Geo, the European version of National Geographic. Just stop there for a second. And this was interesting to me because it was the first time that I understood that my agenda had some sort of value. And by agenda, I mean something that really defined my life, which is my interest to certain parts of reality and not the normal reality of a news agenda, like can be migrants crossing Mexico. So you can start showing the photos. This was really, really interesting because Geo allowed me to document in depth the sharpshooting culture in Switzerland that came, when I say agenda, it came from this very particular way of reading the news, where I will find something that will call my attention in the news, in Wikipedia, something that will stay with me. And in this case was, stop for a second, in this case was that in Switzerland, there are more shooting clubs than soccer fields. So I started investigating all this. I was able to do some photos. Geo supported me to work as much as I wanted there. So I started to develop a very much in-depth documentary project. You can continue with the photos, where I got into this world that I found fascinating. No? Also, for me, what I think it was very interesting, also such an important point in my career, is that here, and it was here, not somewhere else, that I understood the value of empathy. And I say this because, as you can imagine, this world of shooting in Switzerland is very much co-opted. First, it's a very rich country, as you know, that I really like and I find fascinating, but it's very much co-opted by the shooting world, but by the extreme right. So let's say I was dealing all day long with people that sometimes politically or humanly, I don't have too many things in common. So this really teach me or put me in question of how or what I understand for empathy, because it's very easy to have empathy for a migrant, crossing Mexico 5,000 kilometers, a malnourished child in Somalia. But here we're talking about a different level. And for me, as a photographer or as a documentarist, I really had to explore or understand why I was doing that with that people. I really needed to see which part of me loved what I was doing and the people I was photographing, also because of ethical reasons, because these people were basically opening their lives to me. So if I was going to show it, I had to protect them. So for me, it was very interesting in that way. Also because I really got, I worked for 3 years there in Switzerland. I got very much inside this culture, and also helped me to understand a common line in all the projects I was going to do in my life that had to do with these very specific interstices where life develops. No, this was, like the plant that grows out of a crack in a wall. That's what I'm interested in exploring, and that's what I will explore in my own personal projects. So right after Switzerland, I, as I told you, I lived a long time in the Middle East. One of the places I knew, it was a place that to me, it was very particular, not only because of the not only because of what it means. If I tell you cave dwelling communities, it sounds very exotic, no? But also there was something about the landscape, the geography. I still don't understand it. I visited my grandparents' village in Lebanon, and it looked just like that. Maybe it came from there. But I found this very particular place of Masafriata in the south of Hebron, and I fell in love with the place. And I think there were two important things there for me, no? I wanted to document the life of these communities. And first of all, I wanted to do it eliminating any boundaries between my life and my work. This was very, very important. Second, I think I understood somehow what is happening with documentary work is that at the end, what we try to do is to live other people's lives, no? And this is a very particular way of living. You can start showing the photos. And well, the first thing is you can see the landscape is breathtaking, at least for me. And this relationship of humans with landscape, I really found it fascinating, and I made it my life. No, I lived in a cave for a year and a half. My practice was more ethnographic, and I was trying to document something very political, which was this threatened way of living. Because on one hand, and this is the first thing you see in, as you can imagine, because of the political situation there, the occupation is threatening this traditional way of living. But at the same time, there was this contradiction that is the occupation what is forcing these people to keep on living like in biblical times, no? Because there is no improvement allowed. So in this interstice, in this paradox, is that these people live their lives, and I live with them, and I document in the way of seeing life. And also I enjoy this total freedom, which is living like a shepherd, no? I was telling Kete that the name comes from the Arabic word of safar, to travel. There is also other theory that it comes from sifr, from zero, which is interesting because zero, it's because, well, in Ottoman times, people wouldn't pay taxes there, etc. But also, I think that there is something interesting about zero, no? The emptiness, the nothing, which is this void that is the desert, no? And for me, the desert was this void, but at the same time, it was the everything, no? And I wanted to document this particularity, how people live, love their land, how they live they basically live in the belly of the land, no? This cave you see there, it comes from Roman times. So, you know, this place, we can say, was trapped in time, but actually was trapped in politics, no? Because if these people would have had the chance to improve their living by constructing houses, they would have done it. You can keep on passing. So for me, you know, it was a very bucolic, poetic project, because I found the life of these people very, very poetic. It was my family, still today. No, every time I can, I go there. Now the situation is complicated, but of course I would like them to meet my children. This was my cave. You can see a TV there. It was on all day long. So for me, this project also, as you can imagine, I had a very hippie life in that time. No, I used to take a shower once every 10 days. I didn't have children. I could allow myself to that. No, thanks God, I ran out of resources, so I had to come back to society, because if not, I will still be there. We can keep on passing. But also in that time, besides trying to document that, in that time for me, talking about definitions and, you know, these boxes that we put in our heads about who we are, in that time I understood I was purely documentary photography, no? Not a photojournalist, not following news. I will do projects that I will fall in love with, no matter if I had the money or not. Long term, very pure, well, black and white. I was working with film also. I was spending a lot of time and money in that. And then in parallel, at the end of that period, I didn't know what to do. You can keep on passing. I think it was the first time that I work in Gaza. I remember it was June 2014. I went there with a colleague to see the place. I was lucky enough to enter, and I fell in love. I completely fell in love. Something happened to me there. I really liked the people. I was not doing anything. Just went there. I went to explore. We were doing some stories for some European media, but the main thing is I got to know the place, and I like it. I loved it. No, so I came back to my life in August 2014. There was another war in Gaza. I told myself, I'm not a photojournalist. I don't have anything to do in the war. But for me, honestly, it was more difficult. You can start passing. It was more difficult to stay living my life normally in Israel than to be inside Gaza. So I escaped from that situation by entering the war. I escaped the war by entering the war. Again, not having a clue of what I was doing there. I remember being in Erez, you know, the checkpoint to enter. Bombs were falling, tanks were around. You can go slowly here. And asking myself, sorry, what I'm doing here, and understanding that at least for me the place to be was that one. And I went with total freedom in the sense of the creative aspects of it, also in the ethical part. And I'm saying, look, I know that there are some things I'm not going to do. I'm not going to photograph dead people. I'm going to see what happens. And I talked with the curator that knew my work, and I was commissioned by a gallery in Jerusalem to do an exhibition and to do a work and a book about Gaza. But again, you know, very on my own rhythm, with my own text. I was writing a lot in that time. I was working black and white also in the middle of the war, medium format. It was lunatic, no? I admit it. You can pass, but somehow I was following. This is film, no? So I was taking my time. The tripod, bombs were falling. I stayed, I think, for a month inside with total freedom and trying to understand the interstices of war. No, what happens to us, humans, not Gazans, not to us humans, Gazans, and journalists and documentary photographers. You know, what happens to us in this extreme condition of war, where we can all die in one moment to another. So I was following that aesthetically, no, and humanly. I think I tried, no, and following that, I was photographing whatever I wanted to photograph that will make sense to me. Also trying to understand this attraction to distraction, no, that we all have, because we all have it. There is something very aesthetic in distraction. And I was photographing that, no? There is something that doesn't make sense because things are broken in war. But there is something there in, you will see, I remember this exploded fuel tank from a power plant, that it was beautiful. And there is something there, no, that happens to us. And you can see it in your normal lives, no? Whenever there is an accident in a highway, there is a traffic jam, not because of the accident, it's because people trying to see destruction. So I was following that, no? But at the same time, something was happening to me, something very strong was happening, because I will say, okay, this is terrible, no? I'm doing this very with solemnity and with a lot of the seriousness of a black and white photo and tragedy, because it was tragedy. But at the same time, there was something there, you can keep on passing, that for me, at the same time, I would say, okay, but I like this place. I'm interested. No, this is the tank. No, I was telling you that there is something interesting there to all of us. So while I was doing all these photos, at the same time, on my digital camera, I was forced, compelled, you can keep on passing, to take some photos that, okay, you see, come back. You see, this is the previous photo. This is tragic, because, and it's not me. The reality was tragic, and I made it more tragic by the hour I choose. Okay, first of all, we agreed photography is not reality, no, it's my interpretation of reality. Then I was shooting it with film. The light was very low, it moved. So you have this photo that is strong. But at the same time, you can keep on pass two photos, and I want to show you something, no? I was compelled, forced by, no, come back. I was forced to, one more, to take some photos that make no sense at all to me. No, to me, serious photographer doing documentary work, I will find this, a wedding salon in Gaza with this beautiful, horrible, kitsch decoration. And I had to take it. I don't know why. And I keep on taking these photos all the time during the war, during all this serious time you can pass. All these manifestations of militarism that, again, it was absurd, kitsch. I wanted to do it. I didn't have a place to do it. And even, and this is the first time that it happened to me, I took some freedoms, no? There were some things like this photo that I wanted to take or to talk about, that I will do this. I will make a studio photo, which is something that, you know, in my documentary practice is completely out of place, no, because I'm very orthodox. So I will go around with some white papers and do some studio photos of some objects in a sort of a limbo, to talk about things that, on one hand, I wanted to tell different. Second, I had some tranquility, no? I had the tranquility that that war in particular was completely covered by media from all over the world, and in many better ways than me. So I could run with that. You can keep on passing. So I will start taking those photos. This, no, this, come back, come back, come back. This destroyed mosque, and these people taking their phones and asking a friend to take a photo of them in the destroyed mosque, no? This photo, for example, is in the same place of the first photo you saw of the minaret falling down, no? So you can see how both things are reality, but it's different ways of talking about reality, no? So, you know, I didn't understand. You can go to the next photo. I didn't understand why I was doing this. Until one day, I came back a few months after the war to live in Gaza, and I found this photo. It's the first photo I took the first day I entered back to my house in Gaza. I went to drink tea with my friends in the port, and I found this, and I took it. I didn't know why, but somehow this was the explanation of everything for me. And this is what allowed me to come back to all the other photos and to find new photos to do. And you can keep on passing. And this became my photo project called Gaza Mode d'Emploi, where for me it was a sort of a preventive archaeology of a place I knew it was always, unfortunately, I was right, on the edge of disappearing, no? So photos that don't make sense, no? Common places of a very uncommon place. So that's what I was doing. Also, you know, photographing these, no, us, the vultures, no, the journalists going to places to look for dead bodies. No, this is what you do in a place like that. So I wanted to represent all of that. This is a project you can keep on going, that it's still ongoing. I don't know, the place disappeared. No, also this, I didn't want to photograph IDPs because I already did it. 2,000 people did it. I wanted to show you the cardboard houses that the IDP woman would do is some occupational therapy they were doing in a school where they were been living for 6 months. No? So this is the kind of things, the kind of archaeology I was pointing to. No, you can keep on passing. So for me, militarism. No, what? Sorry, you saw before some other photo, which is a brand of perfume that inspires in new words that came with wars in Gaza. Also these, the parades of militarism in Gaza, no? Keep on passing. The drugs, no? I remember in that time, stop here for a second. I remember at that time, one of my colleagues did this project, I don't know from where, about drugs in Gaza and all, you know, black and white, very harsh drugs smuggling. All my friends were taking tramadol, no? So first I knew that the photos my colleague did, with all the respect in the world, were not real. So what? But I wanted to show that, you know, not of my friend, but some of my friends were taking these, were taking tramadol, and it was becoming a pandemic, no, an epidemic in Gaza in that time because of. So that's the language I wanted to develop, no. Keep on passing. But this is always a license. Also, these encounters, the gestures of people, On the right, this guy with this is a lion from the zoo in Gaza that this guy will take around, so people will take photos, so he will have money to buy the meat for the lion because it's very expensive to sustain. Keep on passing. These encounters, people, this guy wanted this portrait this way, So all these licenses, I also developed a deep obsession for gas stations. I photographed most of gas stations in Gaza, in film, in slides. You can imagine the lab invoice. These bombs. The next one, this bomb uses decoration by a guy in a refugee camp. So for me, this was telling a lot about the place I love, and I was doing it from a deep conviction and love about what I feel for the place. Keep on passing. As I was saying, this is a artificial limbs factory. That's what I wanted to show you, this other side of the reality in another language rather than the typical photojournalism. Keep on passing. All these absurd encounters. This is the first photo you saw. Come back. This is the first photo you saw about what I showed you at the beginning was a daily ration of food in a school, for IDPs. We can go to the next project now. I will tell more about mod after, Mod Pro. Then, I'm sorry, I'm going to repeat this word a lot, love, because for me, this is the main motor of my projects. And at the time I was working in Switzerland, one of my best friends, she's a glaciologist, and she's completely in love with glaciers. And I really like her. She supported my work always. And I was always really interested in her relationship to the glaciers. I can tell you this is about climate change, but this for me was mainly to understand this passion, her passion, how she was so passionate about this. So we wrote a project together. So I was able to go with her to document her work and to document glaciers in the Himalayas. We can start. This is a very particular kind of glaciers, which are debris-covered glaciers. So I was trying to document it also from my perspective, and for me there was something very interesting about the subject, which was ice. So I was documenting glaciers, ice, the scientists' relationships to the glaciers. I was working in black and white because I thought it was giving me more aesthetic freedom than color. Also because of the abstraction of black and white. I was experimenting with some formats of besides the photos. I was also using cans, pinhole cameras with 6 months exposures. So one photo will take 6 months to be taken. And of course, they got ruined. It was a mess. This is why some of the photos that you will see further are a bit broken. But it was a very interesting project that it was good that Kete helped me to edit my work because I forgot about it. Actually, next week I have an exhibition in Vienna about this project. The one in the middle is my friend, Francesca. So again, this project was mainly about her, and her passion. That was the motor of everything. keep on passing. You know, I was doing triptychs. I was doing different formats. We opened a glacier observation center up there in one of the villages. All these places disappeared. I was supposed to do 3 trips of 1 month each one. The third one, it happened exactly in the moment of the earthquake. And the village we used to work and we opened the center, it completely disappeared. Everything fell down, and it was tragic. But anyway, you know, I was documenting ice, you know, and these very strange glaciers that to me was different from my idea of a glacier. No, these tongues falling from the mountain covered with rocks, and all the this is a solidography. As you can see, the yellow traces, these are the sun. So this is photo, it's 6 months long. No? We can keep on passing. Now, more than the title here is the Tigray conflict. We're gonna go fast here because I imagine that you're already tired of me. This is interesting because more than to tell you about the conflict, hold on a second. This for me, it's a new stage in my career, and it is where I became professional. No? I moved to Africa, first to DRC, then to Ethiopia, and I started working for AFP. Photography suddenly also became the way that I support my life, and that allow me to have a family, which is something I waited a long time to have. No, so this is, it changed some things for good, because I think it's good to have a family in my case. But also, you know, what happened to me in Congo is that I became a professional. And I also became a professional somehow in the bad sense of the word, no? Because suddenly, because of the context, I started working only on assignment, no? I mean this because also Congo is a very particular place. It's very difficult to work. I was hijacked twice in Kinshasa because, you know, I came with the same rhythm of Gaza, that, you know, I would just take my camera, start walking around, meeting people, talking to everyone, taking photos. And well, I got hijacked. The second time I said, okay, let's take it easy. I'm only going out when I have something to do. So I started working more professionally and with certain responsibility. And part of the responsibility was going to Ethiopia, and suddenly, after a year living there, the conflict started. And I was, again, this is something tragic, I was the only photographer covering the conflict, basically, because no one had access except us, the team of AFP. So you can start passing. So I started documenting from the beginning to the end the Tigrayan conflict. And again, I was trying to, first, I had a responsibility, and this was very heavy on me because here I had no choice than photographing everything, even, you know, dead people, no? Because I knew that whatever I would take, it was the only thing that was going to appear on the news. And there was nothing. So whatever would be a gun would be useful because there was nothing on the media. I was even a long time working with my phone like this because they will not allow me to take photos of some of the situations. So, for example, this woman, it was the first time we were able to demonstrate that there were civilian victims. In this household, 3 people died. Also, because of the shrapnel that fell on that house, we could check that this village that was very much on the north of Ethiopia in the border with Eritrea, there were external forces, meaning Eritrea, involved in the conflict. So everything had two levels. One, this very informative level, and second, and this is very important, I think this is an aesthetic photo. I really choose where to stand and how I found this woman very beautiful. Also, you can see the tattoo of the cross on her forehead. These lines of light. There was this big freezer on the right, so I wanted to keep the minimal of it in the photo because I wanted to deceive people. You know, I wanted people, I want you to look at this photo, like the first photo, the photo of the trees. I want to show you something nice so you will see terrible things. So you are prepared to see and to hear terrible stories. This is part of the thing, as I understand photojournalism. No, I want people not to look the other way. You can keep on passing. I want to tell a story that talks about terrible things. Like, for example, in this one, no, right next to this man, there were 45, 50 bodies decomposing. This is the first massacre we documented, and we were the first people to go there. Here, I don't want to show the photo of the bodies. I did it to the wire, no, I show it to international media. But for me, this is more representative. This person breaking into tears, also because of the smell of the place, covering his nose. For me, this tells a lot. No, we can pass. Also, all these absurdities, no, all these languages of militarism and nationalism. This girl asking for me to take her photo with this militia. Now this militia, for example, for you to understand all this ethnic beast that was unleashed in Ethiopia, this is the militia that now is in war with the Ethiopian federal government. We can keep on passing. Here we have a lot of photos, and I want people to leave space for questions now. Also, this girl, no, that she was damaged, her leg was deeply damaged, but I chose to show you this part, no. For me, this way of approaching her was more interesting. You can keep on passing. Well, this photo that you see, this photo was widely published. For me, this means a lot. I don't think, I think that what happens when you take photos is that you end up talking about yourself, no? And for me, this is interesting, no? Because I'm talking about my children. I'm talking about something that in my life is very important, which is books, because they really changed my life. I would really like that they will change my children's life. My library has been a constant problem in my nomadic life. So at the end, you end up talking about yourself, no? You can keep on passing. Also, part of what was happening is that besides the war, we started documenting all the replicas of the war, no? And that you can see until today, what happened with the conflict in the north of Ethiopia is that it's propagated to other ethnic conflicts, no? This is also a very important photo for me. This is a survivor of sexual violence. It was the first time we were able to enter Mekele, the capital of Tigray. This was a woman that I wanted to show her, not from her back, but I wanted to find a way to protect her identity. I didn't want her to hide, because this is another way of making her a victim. But also it was very important for me to show it because nobody was talking in that moment about rape as a weapon of war in this particular war. We had a lot of problem because we were the first ones to denounce this situation. I remember even having problems with some of my friends that will come and tell me, this is not true. This is not true. This is not in our culture. It's impossible. And I was there. No, I was in a small hospital room with this woman telling us that she was raped by 30 soldiers. No, and her daughter also, and her grandmother also. It was it was a tragedy, and nobody wanted to talk about it. So for me, it was very important to include it in the photos. You can keep on passing. This is another massacre we encountered. Everything was very. We couldn't never understand what the government was allowing us to document and what not. No, we were taken to this place of a massacre perpetrated by Eritreans by some people of the government. We didn't understand, and they didn't want us to talk about it. No? So it was a very challenging reporting. No? In some of the places, like okay, here, no, this, just for you to understand, more of the people you will see or you barely saw in Tigray amputated is cases of people that could have been saved, but they didn't have the medical assistance in time, you know. So this child lost his hand because there was no one around. You can keep on passing. So I think you can keep on seeing some photos. We also documented the first cases of malnourished children being there. Nowadays, we are talking about famine in Tigray. Again, with a lot of difficulties for access. Hold on a second. This is also a bit of what I was telling you at the beginning, no? This is not reality. It is, no? But for me, the best way about talking about the war and Eritrean refugees that used to live in Tigray, they had to move, was this situation inside the hotel where they were camping, an abandoned hotel. And suddenly they were trying to see inside this tinted window, and it's giving a very interesting effect, no? And so I'm deceiving you in order to talk about these issues, no? And I think it's a bit the power of photography. You can keep on passing. Always victims, no? The people who don't have anything to do with power are the ones paying the price. And you can keep on passing. We're almost finishing. This is another malnourished child. So, well, that's this is more or less my work, what I do. As I'm telling, as I told you at the beginning, for me, photography is an excuse. It's also a doubt, always. That's why I think I like this work, because it's always a question, and at the same time, I can find an answer, but I know it's going to be an answer that is going to last briefly because it's going to renovate the next day, and I will have to look for another way to tell the story. So thank you very much for your patience. I'm very sorry for all these technical problems. I promise I'm going to be more patient next time with my mother. Just well, ask me. I would love to talk with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Eduardo. This was really, really interesting and powerful. I've seen these pictures before, obviously, but they still continue to have an impact on me when I look through them. So thank you for sharing that with us today. Gulaila has a question. I'm going to try to allow your mic, and let's see if it works. It should be working now, Gulaila, if you want to ask a question.
Can you hear me, Kate?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Okay, so thank you so much for this really, really amazing presentation and showing us some really, really nice pictures, and also giving us a perspective which is, way beyond development and the impact that the work that we do have. I have a question which I find very challenging in my work, and I wanted advice for that because our work, I work in Pakistan on an economic reform program. It's very technical. Like we work with the finance ministry, we work with the revenue authorities and trade, So sometimes our project struggles with pictures. And of course, we can have impact pictures like, how it impacts citizens. But generally, we don't have human interest pictures at all. So very boring pictures. Or of the maximum you can show is the stock exchange, the maximum you can show is a prime minister's office building and stuff like that. So that's a challenge for us. Most of the repository of my pictures is our training exercises or our meetings. So I wanted advice on that. How do you make this kind of program more interesting with pictures? That's something that would be really helpful.
Thank you, Gulaila.
We have a nice anecdote of Pakistan now because we tried to go there in December and finally we couldn't. Gulalai. Finally, we couldn't go there. No, I understand what you say, but also at the same time, because I find this all the time with some of my projects. When you're covering a concert, it's much easier, But in some other things, and this is related to what I was saying on my last coverage of the war, we need to find a way, a metaphor to talk about some things. First of all, well, I think first it's our duty as photographers to find an interesting way to say the things. And there are tricks for that or things you learn with the profession. But I also think that, there are some always dealing with reality. Remember that photography is not reality. If you only see okay, this is boring, of course. If you take me to a meeting to talk about something, I can die because I will never make an interesting photo. But I think the challenge of the photographer that you might choose to do that story is to try to find a way to make it interesting. There are some physical things related to photography. You can put me in the most interesting place on earth at this hour. Well, here it's 12:01 p.m. There is no chance I can make a good photo because the light is horrible. Now, you give me the chance to go early morning or late afternoon, I might be able to do something better now. Coming back to what you say, look, there is even about these boring things that you mentioned, there is also very interesting photographs. So I think that there is always a way to tell the story. So I don't know if I'm replying to you. All I can tell you is I'm still want to go to Pakistan. I almost did it. Hopefully next time.
Thank you, Edu. I think there was a hand up. Gulaila, you want to say something else? Okay, I think that's a no. Nikki, next I will try to allow your mic, and it should work now.
Hi. Yes, I wanted to say thank you so much for this presentation, and I'm not able to type into the chat, so I didn't want you to think that we're out here not speaking to you or not giving you feedback. I think the presentation that you make through your photos and what Kete is encouraging us to do while we are out and about our work is really thought-provoking, and it gets through that kind of superficiality of pointing a camera and just snapping and seeing what you've got to actually thinking about what it is you're trying to portray and the message that you are trying to give. So I just wanted to say thank you for that, and that's something that I will certainly take away from this session.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you very much. I'm very
the
happy.
other thing I'd say is, as an accountant myself, there's nothing wrong with accountants.
No, everything is okay. Actually, Nikki, I don't know where you're based, but you know, where I come from in Argentina is quite a dynamic profession, even more than being a photographer.
No, I'm based in the UK, but I know what you're saying about Barcelona. My sister lives there, so that kind of lifestyle, I can see it takes you in different directions.
I come from Argentina, which is a much more dynamic context even.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions for Eduardo, the work he's presented, or anything else that you'd like to share with us? One more hand. Let me allow the mic. It should work now. Neil?
Thanks, Kete. Eduardo, thanks for such a powerful presentation. It was really, as Nikki said, it was really great to see your photographs, but also to have you to describe, you know, what was behind them. I was interested in, you know, as a photojournalist, you're observing, and I know you're putting images out there. But do you feel like you have the power to make a change, or do you feel like just like all you can do is present to the world? And however you feel on either side of that, is it empowering or is it frustrating? How do you feel about, you know, how your work links to, you know, making change happen, stimulating change?
Oh, thank you, Neil. It's a very good question, because, you know, now I was, this is a life exercise, no, to make this presentation, besides the technology that you saw I failed. It's interesting because it forced me to organize and review things I did. No, I would have liked to show you more of my previous work, and I couldn't find it. But anyway, this active stills part, no, it was a chapter of my life that very much had to do with activism and this feeling of wanting to change the world that I still have. I think, you know what? I don't think that photography can change the world. People can change the world. And people being challenged by certain information or inputs, no? And this is what happens with reading, no? It somehow creates new path in our neural system of seeing things. And I do believe things can be changed through that, no? Because suddenly we think different. It happened to me. Photography changed my life because I saw this Kudelka photo and I said, there's people that live like this and they do this work and it's beautiful. Now, Yes, I forget about these things. I saw it the other day in one of my colleagues. He was a text journalist working along with me in Ethiopia, and he was helping me to write a proposal, and he sent me some samples. And in one of these, how do you say, intention letters that you present for works, why you want the work, that you're somehow very arrogant. No, we all are. But there was something of truth there of the work we did together, and it happened. We showed to the world that, for example, that what the government was saying in that moment about Ethiopia, basically that the war was going to be clean, fast, completely hygienic, was not true, because we were able to show the atrocities from both sides. No, so something changed there. Something changed, and it changed deeply, because I saw it politically. The first trip that the president of the European Commission did, becoming Ursula von der Leyen, becoming president, was going to Ethiopia with 21 commissioners. And that relationship changed because of reporting, not mine, my colleagues, the few ones that we were able to break the blockade on journalists. It worked. So there is a chance, because that's what we want. Look, you write a book, you don't know who is going to buy it. No, in the case of news, it's a bit different, no, because in our case in AFP, we make pizza. It's available for everyone all over the world, and in this particular case, there was no one else publishing this, so everybody needed. But in general, what you do is you throw a message in a bottle to the ocean, and to someone it's going to arrive, and someone's life is going to change. It happens to me with certain books, no, that I remember traveling in Central America and finding in a second-hand shop this book from a writer. It changed my life. So I guess in a big scale or in a small scale, we need to try that, no? The impossible. Sorry, I'm getting older and more romantic. I'm very sorry if I'm not I'm not so pragmatic.
No, thank you very much, Eduardo. That was a fantastic answer. Thank you.
Awesome. Any more questions? I will check the chat. I don't think there are any there. So in that case, thank you so much, Eduardo, to you, as well as everyone who joined us today. And it's been a pleasure to, have the privilege to be joined or be let into your worlds, I should say, many of them. So thank you for that. And thanks everyone for supporting our ASI Thought Leaders Forum. And that's all. So thank you very much. And I hope to see you at the next edition. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you for your patience, guys. Really, I wish we did several tests with Kete. It's not her fault. I wanted this to be more smoothly. I will get better with age.
Don't worry. I think it's fine. I think one last question just came in. So for all of you that have time to hear this last one. What challenges have you faced in capturing the essence of life in Gaza, and how do you navigate the complexities of the region to tell authentic and compelling stories through your photography? This is a question from Lydia. Lydia, thank you very much.
I think there was no challenge, no, for me. I'm sorry. In that case, there was no challenge because everything was absolutely personal. So it was a love story, you know, for me. And also, remember, I was not trying to bring any news to the world, because I was very relaxed that, you know, the story was already told. I know the place is very polemic, no? But, you know, I live long time there. I have a very strange relationship with the place. You know, I'm technically speaking, I'm an Arab, but my third language is Hebrew. After English, I speak much better Hebrew than Arabic. And there are some things that, you know, I'm not trying to show, to discuss. I will never get into a conversation about the situation in the Middle East. Never, never, because I'm not interested in discussing that level, no, because I know it's not black and white, or it is, but I don't care. You know, I know the place very well, and I'm interested in this relax, or this piece of saying, okay, nobody cares about my story or what I have to tell. So let's tell something that to me, it's compelling. To me, you know, that's why my doubts, my qualms are always about being loyal to that and saying, okay, listen, am I being loyal to my feeling to the place through these black and white photos? No, I need something else. To me, the most authentic thing I can tell you about Gaza is my other project, Mode d'Emploi, no? And the most authentic photos of all of them is this that says I love you, because that's what I felt from Gaza to me, no? And I know that there is no way out from that relationship until today, and that's the sorrow and for everything that is happening in both sides, in every side, in every place. So for me, it was not challenging that way, just in the way of trying to tell you something new and more interesting, not truth, not the truth, not at all. On the contrary, not objective, completely subjective, you know, my life experience. So, well, I don't know if I reply, but I hope I did.
She seems to be very happy, so she says thank you for that. So I guess it's a very fitting point to end on with Gaza on our minds. So thank you again, everyone who joined and everyone who asked questions. I hope you enjoyed this session, and I hope you join our future ones. And have a lovely day. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Feel free to contact me whenever you want.